I'm Kimberly, and I turned 29 last month. I used to believe that family was everything, no matter how complicated the past. That belief shattered one Monday morning when I was scrolling through Instagram at work and came across a photo that felt like a slap to the face, my parents and sister smiling on a Greek island with a caption that read, "Nothing but real family on this journey." Confused and hurt, I tried calling my sister. No answer. Then my phone buzzed again, a notification. From my bank. Over $10,000 had been withdrawn from my emergency savings fund. My stomach dropped. That vacation? It was on my dime. I grew up in suburban Michigan, raised in what most would consider a stable, middle-class household. My dad was an accountant. My mom a third-grade teacher, and my older sister Jessica, well, Jessica was always the favorite. I was the cautious one, the saver. Dad taught us to budget and warned us about misusing credit cards. Always have an emergency fund, he'd say. I took that advice seriously. After college, I moved to Chicago for a job in digital marketing. I lived modestly, saved 20% of every paycheck, and by the time I turned 29, I had just over $10,000 in savings. Jessica, meanwhile, had always floated through life on charm. When she dropped out of college, my parents supported her for years. When I asked for help with student loans, they reminded me about being financially independent, even though it was Dad who had encouraged me to attend that school in the first place. 3 years ago, I declined to be a bridesmaid in Jessica's wedding because the destination bachelorette party was too expensive. She told me if I really cared, I'd find a way. My parents sided with her. I still went to the wedding, but I sat in the back like a stranger. Last Christmas, Jessica borrowed my credit card for presents. When I confronted her, she promised to pay me back. She never did. My parents called it sister sharing and told me not to be uptight. 3 months ago, someone tried to change the password to my bank account. When I mentioned it, they brushed me off again. I should have seen the signs. That Monday morning at work started like any other. I got my coffee, settled in, and opened Instagram. The photo stopped me cold. There they were, my family, in Santorini. The caption, the smiles, the luxury, and me, nowhere. I assumed it was old, but it was posted that very morning. I looked closer, new clothes, new haircut, a designer bag Mom had just told me she was saving up for. The gut punch came from the caption, "Nothing but real family." I checked my banking app. My emergency fund was nearly wiped out. Charges lined up with their travel plans, airline tickets, a resort, excursions. I froze. My family hadn't just excluded me, they had funded their luxury vacation with my money. I showed my coworker, Rachel. She was shocked. "That's theft, Kim." And it was. I called Jessica, my parents, no one answered. I spent the rest of the day gathering evidence, screenshots, transaction history, social media posts. That evening, Rachel sat with me while I stared at photos of them sailing on a yacht, eating at 5-star restaurants, smiling like everything was perfect. A new charge appeared, $8.50 for luxury transportation in Athens. I felt physically ill. I knew what I had to do. I called the bank and reported the charges as fraud. The rep, Sarah, was kind but serious. She told me they'd flag the transactions and freeze the accounts. She strongly recommended I file a police report. I wasn't ready for that, yet I spent that night changing passwords, adding two-factor authentication, canceling auto-pays, doing damage control. I'd always believed family would never hurt me like this. That belief died quietly in my chest that night. Then, the next morning at 6:08 a.m., the calls started, missed call after missed call, voicemail after voicemail. My mom was hysterical, the hotel had declined their payment. My dad's voice was angry and cold, accusing me of embarrassing the family. Jessica blamed me for ruining everything. They all demanded I fix it. Their credit cards didn't work. The hotel wouldn't let them check out. My father threatened legal action. My sister mocked me. "You were never going to use that money anyway," she texted. "It's just money." They claimed it was going to be a surprise. They said they'd bring me a gift. But I'd seen the real caption. I had the proof. A text mistakenly sent to me from Jessica sealed it. "He won't notice. Book the extra excursion." It was meant for Dad. She wasn't reaching out, she was still planning to spend more of my money. I didn't respond. I called the bank again and finalized the fraud claim. Sarah told me that with the charges flagged, their payments wouldn't go through. Part of me felt vindicated. The larger part just felt hollow. This was my family. By midweek, their messages shifted from rage to desperation. My mother cried about being stranded. My dad begged for help. My sister kept insulting me, insisting I was being dramatic. "Everyone uses each other's accounts. That's what families do," she wrote. No. "That's what thieves do." I forwarded the most threatening messages to my email and muted them all. That day, I also called my old therapist, Dr. Eleanor. She told me, "You're having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation." It helped. By that evening, I had an inbox full of guilt-tripping voice notes, offers to pay me back, and excuses. But I was done listening. They crossed a line. And while they might see me as nothing more than a bank account or an afterthought, I saw the truth clearly now. I wasn't part of their real family. And I didn't want to be anymore. The humiliation my family experienced at the hotel was something I didn't relish, but it wasn't something I felt guilty for, either. It had been a direct consequence of their choices. That evening, while they scrambled to sort out their situation abroad, Jessica posted a photo of a sunset from what was clearly their hotel balcony. The caption read, "Overcoming unexpected challenges, one sunset at a time." I stared at it in disbelief. The audacity, the spin, it was classic Jessica. Rachel stayed over that night. We ordered takeout and watched a series of mindless comedy shows, anything to help me stop thinking. I was emotionally drained but grateful not to be alone. Before finally falling into an exhausted sleep, I checked my banking app one last time. The fraud investigation was officially underway. My accounts were flagged with alerts and undergoing 24-hour monitoring. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: there was no going back. That version of our family, whatever illusion I'd still been clinging to, was gone. They might not have realized it yet, but everything had changed. 5 days after I discovered the theft, my father sent me a terse text: "Landing at O'Hare, 3:15 p.m. tomorrow. Be at the house by 6 o'clock. We need to talk." It wasn't a request. It was a command, like I was a teenager again being summoned to answer for breaking curfew. I spoke with Rachel and Dr. Eleanor before responding. Their advice was clear: take control. I replied, "I'm not coming to the house. If you want to talk, we can meet at Rachel's apartment at 7 p.m. I'll text the address." The response was instant and predictable: "This is a family matter. No outsiders." I didn't flinch. "Rachel stays, or there's no meeting. Those are my terms." A long silence followed before the final word: "Fine. 7 p.m. In the 24 hours leading up to that meeting, I went into full preparation mode. I printed bank statements showing every unauthorized transaction. I gathered screenshots from social media, even the ones they'd quickly deleted but I'd saved. I made a timeline of events, with Jessica's incriminating text at the center. Dr. Eleanor and I rehearsed possible scenarios. She reminded me that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was a form of self-respect. Rachel deep-cleaned her apartment, wanting to make the space as neutral and safe as possible. She arranged enough seating in the living room, laid out a pitcher of water and glasses, and made sure everything was in place. As we waited for the doorbell, she looked at me and said, "You did nothing wrong. They violated your trust, stole your money, and tried to manipulate you when they got caught. Don't let them flip the script." At 7:02, the doorbell rang. Rachel gave my hand a final squeeze before opening the door. I stayed seated, steadying my breath. My parents entered. First, tightly composed. My mother's eyes were red from crying, my father's jaw clenched with restrained anger. Jessica trailed behind, looking defensive but uncertain. "Kimberly," my mother said, stepping forward for a hug I didn't return. "Please, sit down," I said instead, gesturing to the couch opposite me. Rachel sat next to me, offering a polite nod to my family. My father narrowed his eyes at her presence. "Is this really necessary?" he asked, irritated. "Yes. Rachel stays. She's here because I trust her," I said, letting the meaning hang in the air. My family sat down reluctantly. "You've put us in a very difficult position," my father started, the same commanding voice from my childhood surfacing. "Because of your actions, we had to borrow money from strangers. Our entire vacation was disrupted." "My actions?" I repeated. "Let's be clear. You accessed my accounts without permission. You stole over $10,000. Then you excluded me from a trip you paid for with my emergency fund, and got angry when I caught you and froze the accounts." "It wasn't theft," my mother insisted, tears returning. "We're family. We would have paid you back." "When?" I asked flatly. "And why didn't you ask me first?" Jessica scoffed. "We knew you'd say no. You're always so uptight about money." "No," I corrected, "I'm responsible. That's why the money was there in the first place." My father leaned forward. "Things got out of hand. We should have discussed it with you first. But falsely reporting fraud caused bigger problems. We had to dip into your mother's retirement to pay the hotel." "It wasn't a false report," I said, opening my folder. "Let me walk you through what actually happened." For the next 15 minutes, I laid out everything: the unauthorized withdrawals, the travel expenses, the timeline, and most damning of all, the text from Jessica: "He won't notice. Book the extra excursion." Jessica crossed her arms. You never change your passwords. It's your fault for making it so easy. Rachel let out a quiet noise of disbelief but didn't speak. I turned to my mother. Why? Why exclude me and then steal from me? Her composure faltered. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The trip was Jessica's idea. Just her and us. Then the costs added up, and you decided I'd fund it, without telling me. And not invite me, I finished. Jessica shrugged. You have money. You don't even take vacations. That fund was just sitting there. It was for emergencies. Not your Greek vacation, I said, enunciating each word. We were going to bring you a really nice souvenir, my mother offered. Weekly, the caption, I said sharply. Nothing but real family on this journey. Explain that. My mother flushed. I meant the three of us, the core. The ones who've stayed close. You've been in Chicago, focused on your career. The pain that swept through me was visible. Rachel touched my hand again. We planned it for your mom's birthday, my father added. Jessica lost her commission. We were in a tight spot. And you chose theft as the solution? All three said in unison, it wasn't theft. Rachel spoke for the first time. Taking money without permission is theft. Even if it's family. My father turned on her. This doesn't concern you. It does, she replied evenly. Because Kim came to my apartment shaking after finding out what you did. And you've been blaming her ever since. The conversation unraveled after that. My mother cried louder, accusing me of choosing outsiders over blood. My father threatened to cut me out of his will. Jessica tossed insults between silence and mockery, but I didn't waver. I held my ground. My father eventually asked, so what now? You're going to destroy this family over money? This isn't about money, I said. It's about trust. Respect. Boundaries. You violated all of them. We're your parents, my mother sobbed. After everything we've done. For you. Yes, you raised me. You taught me to be financially responsible. And then you stole from me. Don't pretend there's no contradiction in that. I looked them square in the eye. Here's what's going to happen. The fraud claim stands. My accounts are secure. You no longer have any access to my finances. If you want a relationship with me, it will come with accountability and boundaries. Jessica rolled her eyes. Always so dramatic. My father stood. Until you drop this fraud nonsense, you're no longer part of this family. My mother gasped, but said nothing. Jessica smiled slightly. That's your choice, I said, my voice steady. I'm sorry you see it that way. As they walked to the door, my father threw one last jab over his shoulder. You'll regret this. One day, when you need family and no one's there, you'll remember this. After they left, the apartment felt silent in a different way. Rachel didn't say anything right away. She just sat with me until I was ready to speak. Are you okay? She finally asked. No, I said. But I will be. And I meant it. For the first time in a long time, I meant it.